Welcome back. My name is Dr. Boyd, the chemist, and I am coming to you on behalf of the Transformational Education Adventure Center, which is located in McLean, Virginia, and it's also known as the T Center. And today we're going to have another STEM lesson. Today's lesson is about catalyst. Catalyst, all right? A catalyst. And what we'll be doing to demonstrate the effects of a catalyst is we're going to do the elephant toothpaste demonstration. Elephant toothpaste. Now, there are a lot of moving parts in this particular demonstration, and so I'll explain them as we go along. One thing you want to pay attention to, we'll be using peroxide. And in fact, I'm using 12% peroxide, which is 4 times stronger than the peroxide that you'll get at your typical convenience store. So because I'm using peroxide, and peroxide can be a bit dangerous, I will be wearing my splash goggles for safety over my eyes so that nothing splashes into my eyes, okay? So what will you need if you want to follow along and do this as well? Here are the items that you will need. You will need, first and foremost, make sure you're safe, wear your goggles, some eye protection. You're gonna need a container to run the reaction in. You're going to need warm water, 2 tablespoons of warm water. You're going to need a 1/2 cup of hydrogen peroxide, 1/2 cup of hydrogen peroxide. You'll want some kind of container to place your reaction container in, like a bowl. So I have a large bowl, large pan, something like that to hold the reaction in because it will get big and a little bit messy. You're gonna want to have a funnel, and then you'll want to have like a spoon or something to stir your reaction with. I actually have this really fancy glass stirring rod. All right. Most importantly, well, 2 things left. You probably want some food coloring just for effect, although it's not necessary. But most importantly, you're gonna want some yeast. Why? Because yeast are going to serve as our catalyst, okay? So what is a catalyst? What is a catalyst? In chemistry terms, a catalyst is something that speeds up a reaction, okay? Speeds up a reaction and you're able to get it out at the end of the reaction, okay? It speeds up the reaction and you can get it out later on. In this instance, we are using yeast as our catalyst. So what is yeast? Yeast is that thing in bread that makes the dough rise. It makes your bread dough rise, okay? Yeast will make your bread dough rise. Believe it or not, yeast are actually living organisms, single-celled living organisms, okay? And they are hungry, very hungry. So in this particular reaction, they're hungry for something that you and I are also hungry for, and that is oxygen. This works because oxygen, there will be an available oxygen for the yeast to eat in the peroxide. Peroxide has a chemical formula that is very similar to that of water. Water is H2O. That means it has 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. Peroxide is H2O2. That means that there are 2 hydrogens and 2 oxygens. Well, it's that extra oxygen in peroxide that these yeast are going to be going after as soon as that extra oxygen is available. Because they'll be going after it, they're hungry, they want some of that oxygen, they're gonna be moving around a lot. And because they're moving around a lot, they're actually going to cause, I forgot to mention you'll need some dish soap. They're gonna cause this dish soap to be agitated. And if you've ever used dish soap in like your sink to wash dishes, for example, you'll notice when it gets agitated, it forms bubbles. Well, these yeast are going to be moving around so much that they're going to form a lot of bubbles and it's going to look like foam and it's going to come out of our reaction vessel looking like toothpaste. All right, so that's the concept. Let's see if it works. You will know if your yeast are happy in 2 ways. One, you can smell them. Yeast don't have like the best smell, so you'll be able to smell your yeast. That's one way. The other way is to see how well this reaction goes forward. So my yeast are a little bit old. We'll see if we can excite them enough to make this reaction go forward really well. All right, let's get started. First things first, safety. I'm putting on my safety glasses, my goggles rather. These are splash goggles, so if something splashes, it won't get into my eyes or into my face, okay? And the first thing I'm actually going to do is take the peroxide, 1/2 cup of peroxide, and put it into my reaction vessel. Then I'm going to set that to the side because I don't want to knock it over. And I do want to make sure that I am careful with it. So I'm going to take 1/2 cup of peroxide. All right, I got the scary part out of the way. Please note that I keep my glasses, my safety glasses or safety goggles, splash goggles on, all right? Just because I've set it to the side doesn't mean I shouldn't still wear my safety glasses. I must wear my safety glasses throughout the experiment. Okay, so I have now another container where I'll have to make some yeast happy. And how am I gonna make the yeast happy? Well, I'm gonna warm them up with some water. And how much yeast do I need? I need 1 teaspoon of yeast. 1 teaspoon of yeast. Now remember I said my yeast are a little bit old, so I'm gonna use just a little more than 1 teaspoon to see if having more of them there will spur a little more conversation while they're looking for this oxygen. Let's see if that helps this reaction to go forward a little bit better. Now I'm gonna need 2 tablespoons of warm water. You don't want it to be cold and you don't want it to be too hot, all right? So if it's too cold or too hot, the yeast will not be happy. You want it to be warm water, just like you and I. We don't want to be in super hot water, but we also don't want to be in really cold water. At least most of the time we don't. So I got some warm water here. 2 tablespoons of that, and I'm going to use my fancy stirring rod to stir them up, and I can already smell my yeast. They are, I think they're pretty happy because they are pretty stinky. Now you want to stir them up long enough that they are mixed into your water pretty well, okay? So I'm trying to almost, the concept of dissolving something in water is kind of what I'm shooting for here. All right. Make sure none of them are stuck to the bottom here. All right. So they're smelling like they're gonna behave. Okay. And I've mixed them up pretty good, as you can see. Kind of looks like coffee with a lot of cream in it. Okay. Next thing to do, and I'll have to adjust how the camera is situated so that you can see what I'm doing next. But I'm gonna take my bowl, my large reaction container. I'm gonna place my peroxide in that container. Okay. I'm going to also take some dish soap. Okay. You don't need a lot. Let me see what I normally use. I normally use 1/2 teaspoon of dish soap. I'm gonna put a little more in there today. Add that to the peroxide that's in the reaction vessel. Okay. And I'm gonna use my food coloring here to give us the effect that we're after, which is make it look like toothpaste. So sometimes people's toothpaste has like those red stripes in it. Sometimes it's kind of blue. We're gonna make ours green, minty fresh. Okay, so just notice I'm just lining the side of my reaction container with some streaks of green food coloring. Okay, and now Time for the moment of truth. What I'm going to do next is going to be the culmination of this process. I am going to add my happy yeast to the reaction container. In my reaction container, I have half a cup of peroxide. I have about half a teaspoon, or maybe as much as a teaspoon of dish soap. I've lined the edge of my container around it with some green food coloring just for effect. And now what I'm going to do is add my yeast, and hopefully they give us the reaction that we want to see. All right, here we go. Moment of truth. Check it out. There you go. I think our yeast were happy. And there's your elephant toothpaste. So kind of looks like toothpaste shooting out of the toothpaste bottle. Okay. All right. So our yeast were happy, and our yeast again were our catalyst. Sometimes you see this reaction performed with a chemical, I think it's called potassium iodide. Its chemical formula are the letters K and I, potassium iodide. That means it has 1 part potassium and 1 part iodine in it. And you may see other catalysts as well for this reaction. But in our case, we're using yeast because it's pretty simple. You can go to the store and buy it pretty easily, and they get the job done. And so with that, I hope you enjoyed your lesson on catalysts and following along with this wonderful elephant toothpaste demonstration. And I will, let me just say, I hope that you are going to the tcenter.org and checking out all the wonderful things that are happening at the T Center, not just in STEM class, but in other classes like Chinese and mindfulness and wellness. So you can also follow us on Facebook. Definitely like our page and definitely check us out. And I will see you later.